Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the California High-Speed Rail Authority's Board Finance and Audit Committee meeting for December 16th, 2021, and happy holidays to you all. Can the committee secretary please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chair Richards.
Here.
Director Camacho.
Here.
Vice Chair Miller. Director Gallimetti. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, and welcome everybody, my colleagues on the committee and the staff and management joining us today also. So with that, do we have any public comment this morning, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a few attendees, so I'm going to go over the instructions for public comment.
Thank you.
Good morning, all. Welcome to the California High-Speed Rail Finance and Audit Committee meeting. Today, we're hosting this meeting remotely via Zoom. In a moment, we will begin public comment. First, we want to run through some important technical aspects of this meeting for offering public comment. If you are logged into this meeting via the Zoom application, please utilize the raise your hand feature, typically located at the bottom of your screen, so that I may call on you to provide your comment. If you're dialing in by phone, pressing #2 will raise your hand and put you into our queue. Speakers will be called in the order that their hand is raised. Once you've been in the queue and your name is called, in the web meeting, please click the prompt on your screen to allow your microphone to be unmuted. On the phone, we will call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. At that point, you'll hear a message that you're being unmuted. Once unmuted, it'll be your turn to speak. Please slowly and clearly say and spell your first and last name, and if applicable, state the organization you represent. After your introduction, each speaker is allotted 2 minutes to provide their comment. I will interject at 1 minute and 45 seconds to provide a 15-second warning. Our core reporter is on the line to record these comments. If they need you to spell or repeat something, they may interject. I will notify you when your time is nearly up. At the end of your comment, we will disable your microphone. However, you are welcome to stay on the line to continue watching or listening to the meeting. If you do not wish to provide comment and simply want to watch the meeting, you can do so by logging on to hsr.ca.gov and looking for the link to our live stream. Mr. Chairman, first up for public comment, we have a Blair Beekman. Blair Beekman.
Good morning, Mr. Peachman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Strange name. Thanks for the meeting today. I wish I have attended these meetings more. I'm a person just sitting on the outside of this process. I think it was said I have 2 minutes to speak at this time, if
That's
I can.
correct.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly offer just a hello. I'm a bit new to the process. I'm trying to learn what I feel can be a more efficient way to talk about the future of high-speed rail. It's difficult to do that, but I'm concerned that they're building a new just regular rail system from, say, the Dublin area into the Central Valley. I can't remember the name of the line, Tri-Valley Lines or something like that. And I wonder if that's a bit redundant, and if in fact the ideas of moving BART from Dublin into the Central Valley and from Antioch up to Sacramento can be a way to introduce a more efficient way to create high-speed rail service overall for our future. And in that sort of terms, it can make building the high-speed rail through the entire Central Valley from LA to Sacramento a much easier process and much easier to get funding that way, because it's more simple to understand what exactly we're doing. And so, the last leg from Merced to Sacramento, I hope can be worked out basically, and that it possibly may be going through Tracy.
15 seconds remaining.
Thank you. It may be going through Tracy, and we should be aware of that and learn to plan accordingly and openly. I'm a big believer in accountability and openness. Good luck and good practices with what I've described. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman.
Mr. Chairman, we have had no new attendees join after the instructions, and no one is motioning to raise their hand.
All right, thank you, Mo. And will the record also show that Vice Chair Miller has joined the committee? Good morning, Nancy. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now move into our agenda. Item number 1 is to consider the approval of the November 18th Finance and Audit Committee meeting minutes. If there are no changes, do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Director Camacho and second by Director Gilmetti and Vice Chair Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Passed unanimously. Item number 3 on the agenda this morning is the executive summary presented by our CFO. Good morning, Brian Annis.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm going to be briefing off the PowerPoint that's just appeared on your screen. If we can go to the first page. So we start as usual with the what we call the accounts payable aging and disputes report, which fortunately has been kind of a boring report. We've gone now we're approaching 5 years without any late payments, 57 months. And additionally, we had no aged invoices in the October reporting period. We also report disputes here. Disputes at the end of October were 46.9 million. That's down about 6.6 million month over month. And most of those are all related to a single contract. That's the CP23 Dragados contract. But on net, those went down over the month. Going down to the bottom of the page, cash management. We start with the Prop 1A bond fund cash balance, and that fell from September to October by about $15 million. The draws out of this fund, excuse me, are for our state operations expenditures and also our bookend projects. So that reflects both of those occurring in the month of October. Cap and trade here, you'll note, fell about 90 million in cash balance. However, as you know, there's some lags before we can count one of the cap and trade auctions into this. We do wait about a month after the auction for the Air Resources Board to put out the final auction proceeds data. And from there, the Department of Finance processes that to the state controller, and the state controller has the final step to certify that into our cash balance. So this 1.6 billion at the end of October did not reflect either the August auction nor the November auction. So we do have some additional funds coming into that account. And I think by next month, in the January meeting, we should be able to include the August auction results, about 250 million into that cash balance. I will just note on cap and trade here, the November auction was another record breaker. It was significantly above the last auction, 71 million above the last auction, and again came in at 325 million. There are a couple drivers of those very high auction proceeds we're seeing. The first was we did have still some resale of COVID-related auction allowances. These are allowances that did not sell in May of 2020 and August of 2020. And this was the third and last reoffering of these unsold credits. So that brought in about 56 million of this 323 million. But even excluding that 56 million, that would still put us over 250 million for the quarter. And so really what's driving that is essentially the higher settlement price for these auctions. The settlement price for the current vintage allowances was over $28. And the August auction was $23 per allowance. The floor price is a little shy of $18 an allowance. So again, the auctions have just really taken off in terms of being significantly above the settlement price. And we're certainly looking at this, but the Legislative Analyst Office is also looking at it, and they put out a report a couple weeks ago on their outlook, and they're actually projecting over $4 billion of total auction proceeds in 22-23 that would result in about $1 billion coming to high-speed rail for the 22-23 fiscal year. So we are looking at this in more detail and probably discuss it more in the draft 2022 business plan. But just want to make the board aware that the auctions right now are very volatile, and they've certainly gone up. And the current market dynamics are for much higher proceeds going forward at this point.
Brian, I'm sorry, who does that estimate, did you say?
This is the Legislative Analyst Office.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Next slide. So our administration expenditures are fairly steady here. On the second line of the table, you'll note in October we spent $4.5 million, which is the same month over month. This is well within budget. We're about 33% of the fiscal year complete through October, and have only spent about 19.3% of the administration budget. Of course, that's due to a large number of new positions and budget we received for this fiscal year, and we're still filling those vacancies. We, at the end of October, had about 286 filled state positions, leaving about 143 still to fill. But as the last bullet shows, our progress is often, in this case, I think 9 steps forward and 6 steps back. We did fill 9 vacant positions during October, but the net was reduced because we had 3 separations from the authority, and 3 of our vacant positions were filled with internal promotions or transfers. Next slide, please. This is a different look at similar information here, but it also includes our rail delivery partner resources, and shows a timeline as well that we are increasing our state staff as we decrease our rail delivery partner consultants, and that's generating savings for the authority as the state staff are cheaper. So the RDP filled position equivalent we're showing for October is about 291 positions. And again, our state staff filled are 286. Next slide. So our capital outlay report for the month for October, our expenditures were $98 million. That compares to 65.6 for the month of September. And in the bullets in the middle of the page, we of course show the breakdown that the design build invoices specifically totaled to about $32 million. All construction package related expenditures were $50 million for the month. And on the bottom table, we show a few additional breakdowns of that information. I'll direct you to the bookend projects line here near the bottom. Notice the $36.6 million, which is a fairly large monthly billing we receive from the Caltrain electrification project. So they tend to bill us once every 3 or 4 months. So we had a rather large billing for the month of October. I believe we can move to the next page. So our total project expenditures, this is our cumulative tally of expenditures since 2006, and we're about $8.9 billion expended through from 2006 through October. And this chart shows the breakout by category. Of course, mostly construction and project development expenditures make up over 90% of our expenditures. Lastly, at the bottom here, we look at the our state match. And as has been briefed before, we did or have received full federal approval of our match up to 99.4% of our match requirement. So we only have about 16 million left to fully meet our match requirement. We expect that to come soon. All of our paperwork and all the questions have been answered. So 16 million gets us to that total match obligation of 2,499,000,000. You'll note in column C, we note 40.9 million pending federal approval, and that's includes some excess. So we have gone over by about 24 million in oversubmitting, and really that's just in recognition that over time we may find refunds through audits, or we may have some cases of deposits in right-of-way condemnation accounts come back to us, and those things require some adjustment going forward. So we do hope with our 40.9 million submitted to the FRA, when that's approved, we hope we won't have to submit any replacement matches in the future, given ongoing technical adjustments for what should be smaller adjustments going forward. Next slide, please. So our contracts and expenditure report. You'll note we have here about 203 active contracts with the total value of 8,580,000,000. Our small business utilization rate has continued to step up a bit over the past year. You'll note here end of October, or for the month of October, 23.3% small business utilization, up 1/10 month over month, but up over 2% year over year, compared to that 21.1% in October 2020. And as of the end of October, we did have about 643 small businesses actively working on the project, and of course, we track the categories, including disadvantaged business enterprise and certified disadvantaged veteran business enterprise. Next slide. So I wanted to mention with this slide, this is where we report our contingency balances. The balances that are shown here are contingent on board action at our full board hearing later this morning. So we're bringing to the full board a expenditure authorization request, and these contingency numbers do reflect the incorporation of that additional budget that we're bringing to the board this afternoon. So, for example, when we look at the different balances for each CP, CP1 balance here, you'll note on the table reflects $966 million of contingency. And compared to last month's board report, we were at 259 million of available contingency for CP1. So we did go ahead and build these numbers in, so the information's available for review, but these are contingent on the board adoption of the expenditure authorizations later this morning. In terms of use of contingency in the month of October, we reflect a couple things here. On the bottom right table, we reflect 50 million for CP23 for the Hanford Viaduct. And this was reported at the full board at the November report by the CEO. This is the 50 million to get started on the Hanford superstructure, and it allows work on that structure to continue while negotiations are ongoing with the CP3 contractor on the overall change order for that structure. And then we reflect below the 50 million, 8 million in various smaller change orders across all the CPs. Those are individually listed in the Central Valley status report, which Daniel Horgan will take up after this report. Next slide, please. And this is our final slide. This is our preliminary look at November numbers. Starting at the top with the capital outlay expenditures, looking at the first of the gray highlighted row here, all construction packages, design build. The preliminary numbers show about 32 million of invoiced amounts we're estimating. Again, these are preliminary, but that lines up the same as what we saw in the October reporting month. All construction package expenditures, 47.6 million for the month. And for the all capital, it shows the 74.9 million for the month of November relative to the 98 million for October. The primary driver of the month over month change is that Caltrain reimbursement request we received in October. And so in the Central Valley, the expenditures were fairly similar month over month here. For full report, of course, on November will be provided next month as part of the January finance and audit report. The two bottom charts here, not too much to update on. We do reflect filling about, about 9 vacancies on net in the month of November. So a good month for filling vacancies, dropping our vacancy rate from 33.3 to 31.2. And there were no updates to report for the ARA match with the federal government for the month of November. And Mr. Chair, that completes the finance and audit report.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for our CFO regarding the information just presented?
I have one
Yes,
question.
go ahead, Ernie. Go ahead, Ernie.
Okay, taking you back to slide number 5. Can we see that again, please? We have listed as of October 31st the percentage of DB contract dollars expended to date for each construction package as follows. And we have CP1 66.6%, CP2 66.9. Can we get the percentage of completion against those dollars?
I believe, with CP4, we're further advanced with that project, as I think we're going to talk about a little later this afternoon. So I think there are some more metrics that we can apply to CP4 and ultimately to the other CPs. But again, there are a set of key performance indicators that I know are being looked at for reporting purposes. And again, I think those will first start showing up early next year for CP4.
Yeah, CP4 I know is more advanced than the others in terms of percentage of completion, but I was just looking at CP1 and 2, 3, so those are where most of our dollars are being spent, just so that we could then gauge the percentage of completion against the dollars being spent. If you could do that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Any other questions for Mr. Annis at this point? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Brian. And we'll now move on to our Central Valley construction update. And good morning, Mr. Horgan.
Good morning, Chair Richards and F&A committee members. So we're just going to go through the Central Valley status report for October when it appears. Justin? Great. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've highlighted the areas I'm going to speak to so that you can follow it more easily as I speak. So October expenditures for the contractors, CP1 was 14.8 million, CP23 10.8 million, CP4 6.2 million. That gave us a total of 31.9 million. In terms of change orders, we executed 23 change orders, totaling 8 million. One of the more significant change orders was on CP4. That was for a new well 13. That was for 1.4 million. The contingency figures that we have here, these again, as Brian said earlier, are based on the board approval today, contingent on board approval. So as of the end of October, we have a contingency for the construction contracts of 1.8 billion. Okay, in terms of design progress is for permanent structures, i.e. guideway and bridges and viaducts, exactly the same as last month. There's still 5 outstanding approvals. 2 of those are on CP1, 3 are on CP2-3. We anticipate all design approvals by the second quarter of next year. Third-party approvals. In the month of October, we got an additional 25 approvals. So that is moving in a positive direction. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of construction workers, we had 906 construction workers. That was the average number of construction workers each day on site. So slightly down on the month before, but still a good number. In terms of construction progress, this figure is the same. We have 65 structures underway or substantially complete out of 93. I will talk more about this further on. There are some delays here. Guideway, 86 miles in construction or complete out of 119. We are 1 mile behind, and that mile is going to be picked up this month. So that's because we were waiting for some land acquisition.
Mr. Horgan, when you reference behind, what does that mean based upon what expectation?
Yeah, so that's based upon our plan. So I'll speak to that, Tom, when we get to the graph showing the plan versus actual.
Okay.
Okay, in terms of utility relocations, October was a good month. We got 47 utilities relocated. We still have, as you can see, 568 utilities to start. So when we mean a utility to start relocation, that means we're waiting for environmental clearance. Could be a third-party approval, design approval, construction work plans, pre-construction walkthroughs, land acquisition, or land conveyance rights. But the good news here is that 70% of the utilities are either complete or in construction. In terms of right-of-way, Dennis Kim's had another good month. We delivered 20 parcels of land to the design build contractors. So very positive. The other positive note here is that there were 26 parcels of land that we were able to remove due to optimized design. We did have to add 2 additional parcels in October, but that was a net decrease of 24 parcels of land, which is obviously very positive. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of third-party agreements, all key agreements are in place with the exception of a few agreements with the City of Wasco. Our Regional Director, Garth Fernandez, is making great progress with the City of Wasco, and we do not anticipate any delay in getting these agreements signed. As most of you are fully aware, environmental clearance is ongoing, and in January we will be bringing the environmental clearance from Burbank to LA to the board for approval. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows the contractors' expenditures, the total expenditure for CP1, 2, 3, and 4. As Brian said, in October it was 32 million. Looks like in November we're projecting 32 million again. Next slide, please. Okay, this shows the contingency drawdown. Again, these contingency figures are based on the assumption that the board will approve the proposal that will be made later this morning. So we're projecting by the end of the year that we will have a contingency of 1.3 billion remaining. Next slide, please. Okay, this shows the progress of third-party design approvals. As I said earlier, we had 25 third-party approvals in the month of October. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows for the past year, shows the number of construction workers. Generally, we've been averaging about 1,050, a little bit lower in the last 2 months. We're at 906. We expect that trend to continue for another month or 2 before it picks up to the higher level, which will probably be over 1,000, maybe 1,100. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the one, Tom, that I was talking about. So In terms of the guideway, we're 1 mile behind. That was at land that was south of Dutch John Cut. That land has been acquired, so guideway will be on target as of December. In terms of structures, we've got 3 structures behind on CP1, Central Avenue, Avenue 17, and Jensen Trench. These are all being worked on aggressively by our teams. One of them is due to a redesign for PG&E, another is to do with land conveyancing, and another is to do with approvals with the railways. So they are all being worked aggressively, and we anticipate they will open up early next year. CP23, we've got 4 structures that have been impacted. They've all been impacted because of land acquisition. One of those, Dutch John Cut, has been released because we just recently got that land. The other 3 are impacted. The Deer Creek is dependent on the agreement with the Alpha Irrigation District, which is very close to completion. So we hope to have positive news in the very near future with the land acquisition for Alpha Irrigation District. We had 1 structure that was behind on CP4. That was the Wasco pedestrian underpass. We've already started construction in November on that parcel. So we're all of the 12 structures, 11 structures on CP4 are in construction. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows the delivery of land parcels since the start of the year. And as you can see, there's been a big uptick here in April. Basically, Dennis Kem, the new right-of-way director, has made a huge impact. We've been averaging close to 30 parcels per month handed over. This month was 20 parcels. So as of the end of October, we have 268 land parcels to acquire. So progress here has been good and momentum will continue to be good. Next slide, please. Okay, this shows the graph of the railroad parcels. Railroad parcels have been delivered as and when we require them, and we do not anticipate any delays from the railroad parcels. Next slide, please. Land conveyances. In the month of October, we completed 2 more land conveyance packages. In addition to the 604 land conveyance packages which we have executed, we have approximately another 200 that are at 85% complete. They're just waiting for the land acquisition to complete the title deeds. Next slide, please. Okay, third-party agreements. The critical agreements are the ones that are outstanding with the City of Wasco. Garth Fernandez is engaging on a daily basis with the City of Wasco. Each one of these agreements is progressing to conclusion. We do not anticipate any delays resulting from these agreements. Okay, I think that concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horgan. Do any of the members have any questions for the Central Valley Construction Update Report? All right, thank you. Hearing none, that concludes our short agenda for today's meeting. I'd like to remind those of you who are watching us this morning or listening, please join us if you're able at the at the December board meeting, which will be this morning at 11 a.m. And with that, thank you, committee members, and for those of you joining us, the Finance and Audit Committee meeting for December is now adjourned.